Hey, everybody, and welcome. This is Jack, and I'm really excited to be talking today with Helena Hart. Helena is a YouTube sensation. She's got 7.5 million views, probably more when you're watching this. She's got coming up on 75,000 subscribers. She's got a background in psychology and has helped thousands of women, and is a good friend. So, Helena, thanks for being here with me today.
Thank you for asking me to come on. I'm a little nervous being on your channel for the first time. Jack and I were joking that I was like, wow, being on Jack Butler's channel, I really have to bring it because,
Oh, God, I don't know about that.
because your videos are so phenomenal. I watch them.
Aw,
They're really helpful for me personally. So I feel like you really get to the core
aw,
of things.
thank you.
Yeah, so hopefully this video will go a little deeper into this topic. I think it's something that's really important to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. And just before we get into it, I also want to say a personal thank you to you that you've had me on your channel a lot. I've loved it. You had me on, I think, when I had 67 subscribers or something back in the day. So I appreciate that, and looking forward to doing more collaboration with you in the future. So let's get into this. So the topic today is 4 powerful steps to stop being taken for granted. So I think let's just kind of get into this. What do you notice about people being taken for granted in relationship? Is there something that's behind that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot that can go into this, but since we're going real deep today, hopefully, at least that's my aim here is,
Yep.
when we abandon parts of ourselves, right? When we put someone else's happiness or needs or desires ahead of our own because we don't want to sit with those uncomfortable feelings that come up when someone's displeased with us, or we're afraid we might lose the other person if we don't constantly do things and make sure they're happy at the expense of our own needs often. Do you
Yes.
come across that as well with the women that watch your videos?
Yeah, I think getting over there with him, right, and putting a lot of attention on how he's showing up or whether he's giving me what I need. And often there's this kind of maneuver to say, well, hang on a minute, let's just hit pause on him for a moment. What happens when you bring the attention that's kind of back over here? Because in my experience, if people are being taken for granted, it's sort of like you can be a victim of that and imagine that someone's doing it to you. Or you can actually be noticing that you might be a willing participant in being taken for granted and get curious, like, what is that about? Yeah, so I know that you've got some steps that you want to talk about. Do you want to take us into that? Like, what's the first step for someone if they're noticing that they're either abandoning themselves or they're being taken for granted?
Yeah, absolutely. I love everything you said. And something I always say is if, you attract a mirror image of something that's going on within you. So if you're attracting
That's
men
right.
who abandon you, where are you abandoning yourself? If you're attracting.
Wow. I want to just double click on that because that's such a powerful thought. If you've never heard that before. So you're saying if you notice you're being abandoned by men, just turn it around and notice, where am I abandoning myself?
Absolutely. I mean, with
Yeah.
anything, if you attract men who keep you waiting, where are you waiting in other areas of your life? I talk about
Wow.
that. Most of the people watching my videos are women, so my content reflects that. I say you attract a mirror image of your own masculine energy, right? So another example is if you attract partners who don't want to commit to you, where are you not
Mm-hmm.
committing to yourself and your own dreams and desires? So this is
Wow.
really all encompassing. It's about much more than just being taken for granted. It could really come across or manifest in any area.
Yeah. So let's say someone's listening right now and they're watching this and they're like, okay, like that might be a new idea. I'm open to it. Or yeah, I totally get that I abandon myself. What can I start to do about that?
Yeah, I would love to talk a little bit personally. This is probably why I was so nervous before starting recording this video. Is that okay? Can I share a little bit
Yeah,
what I've
please.
been going through personally? Yeah, for those of you who have been following my channel or maybe watch my live streams, I'm coming out of kind of a major depression over the past couple months. I'm doing so much better now. I'm feeling actually great now. And so it's a little easier
Well
for
done.
me to talk about some of these things, but I started getting support and working with working with my own counselor. And what I realized is I'd been abandoning parts of myself. And,
Mm-hmm.
we talk about being a people pleaser. It's kind of a buzzword. And I've always kind of thought like, oh yeah, I probably have some people pleasing qualities. It's like, no, that was actually my entire identity was like just people pleasing and being likable, and I can get along with anyone, and even people that other people don't get along with. And that was, I had no idea that I was abandoning these parts of myself and not really standing up for myself in certain situations, family relationships and things like that. So can I just give like kind of an overview of how this plays out when it comes to depression or anything?
Do it.
Okay, great. So, and this is the first time I'm talking about this. This might come across a little jumbled, and I'm kind of nervous, but hopefully.
Oh, good. Well, thanks for being willing to share it here first.
Oh my gosh, yes, of course. So if you want to think of emotions as coming from the limbic system and like coming out through the neural circuitry of your body, right? And it's often these younger parts of ourself, we get triggered, and this younger part of ourself that got created or fractured off maybe earlier in life is like shooting up through your neural circuitry. And that's when we can kind of sabotage ourselves in life or in relationships. Like, you're in an argument, you get triggered, and you say like the worst possible thing you could say at the worst possible moment, right?
That's me.
Yes, I know. We've all been there, right? Oh my gosh. So yeah, the part of us is like traumatized. It's frozen in time, and then we get triggered, and it like shoots up through our neural circuitry. Now, we often, as adults, we want to stop that flow. Right? We want to not feel that and cut ourselves off. So depression is a kind of helpful way where we cut ourselves off. And not just depression. This could look like anxiety, overthinking, being up in our head, not in our body, right? Numbing behaviors, addictions, right? Addictions to food or sex or unavailable men, or that one man who's not meeting your needs, but you can't seem to detach from him, right? It could look like anything, right? So we abandon this little part of ourselves, and then we numb ourselves out. Or depression comes in as almost like a helpful tool. Like, I'm not going to let you feel that. There's no way I'm ever going to let that happen again. And so it's like a lid covering up the emotions. Am I explaining this in a way that makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're basically pointing to the place that we unconsciously or otherwise make a decision that there's something we don't want to re-experience or we don't want to feel. And so our tendency is to want to avoid or suppress or put some defense mechanism over it. And I think what you're saying is actually we don't want to cut that off, and we actually want to be with the experience more.
Absolutely. Yeah. And this whole parts of self theory is from Dr. Richard Schwartz. So I want to give him credit for that. Yeah, the founder of internal family system. So I'm certainly not an expert in this. It's just kind of something that I'm coming to, I mean, I've always known about it, but I've actually experienced it, seeing it for myself. So yeah, these parts of ourselves that are naturally valuable, they have natural talents and resources that they can lend to us. They often shift. They're necessary to protect us earlier in life, but they often shift and can become destructive as adults, right? Or maladaptive.
Yes.
So these parts of ourselves, they want to know two things. Can we get into some of the steps now?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
They want to know two things. First, they want to know that you can advocate for them on the outside, right? Maybe we weren't able to do that as children. We didn't know how. We didn't even know that was an option. They want us to, take them by the hand and externally be advocates for them on the outside. We haven't done that. We've probably been gone for a while, and so they don't trust us, right?
Yeah. Well, and maybe even as a child that wasn't possible. Like maybe it wasn't possible in our holding environment with our parents to say certain things or protect ourselves in certain ways, because there's an asymmetrical power relationship there.
Totally. Yeah. Such a good point. Yeah. They get created if we have like a toxic parent or caretaker or something traumatic happens. And even if nothing big and traumatic has happened, if I look back on my life, it's not like there was this big traumatic incident, but these little traumas happen to us. Even if it was just like, your teacher yelled at you in front of the class and you didn't know any better, or your parent makes a comment, or family member makes a comment about your appearance, and then you grow up to be self-conscious, right? So first they want to know that you're going to advocate for them on the outside. Second thing they want to know is that you can go in and self-soothe on the inside. Internally, you can go in and sit with them, sit with those uncomfortable feelings. And for example, if you tend to be a people pleaser like myself, in order to stop being a people pleaser, you have to be willing to sit with the feelings that are elicited when someone's not pleased with you, or when you disappoint someone you care about, right? Okay.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, because that's a similar thing. When you go to lay down a boundary with someone, you also have to learn how to be with the fact that they may not like that you've laid a boundary down.
Totally. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah, I have probably fears like, oh my gosh, if I'm not so like likable, like nice and people pleasing, it's not, I might not be so likable to a lot of people, especially people
Yeah.
that I've, have benefited from that. Same with setting boundaries in relationships, same with everything. So yeah, so let's get into these 4 steps. Is there anything you want to add? I know you probably have so much valuable insights for this topic too.
No, I'm liking this. It's making a lot of sense. I'll, potentially I might just put you mentioned IFS, the internal family systems. I might just put that so that people have a reference. And I also like that you're talking about this in terms of parts, because sometimes I think if we notice there's a part of us that wants to do something, sometimes it's just a bit more manageable, right? To say that, hey, there's a part of me that wants to, be protective and defensive right now, or there's a part of me that doesn't have a voice. Somehow it's a little bit more digestible than if it's the all of me, right? It's just noticing, yeah, we all have these parts, regardless of whether we had an amazing upbringing or a heavily traumatic one. I think they're almost just like a necessary stage of development for our survival. And then at a certain point,
Totally.
the thing that helped us survive in childhood then becomes the limitation on our fullness and our expression and our realness. And so
true.
It's sort of both and, right? Both honoring the thing like, hey, thank you. You showed up to protect me in childhood. And now sort of like, hey, I've got this. You don't actually need to hang on quite so tight.
Absolutely. Yeah. I knew you'd have some great stuff to say. Sorry, my cat Leo's just joining us.
Leo, hey, I didn't realize we were doing a 3-way call. Hey, hello, Leo.
Yeah, he usually loves to be involved. This might be the first video that we've done that he's always hanging around.
Well, if that's not worth a like, I don't know what is, guys. Come on, like this video right here, right now. Leo made an appearance for you.
Exactly. So so the first step is asking these parts of yourself that want to protect you and keep you safe to step aside, right? So that could be the people pleaser, that could be the overachiever, the controller, the giver, right? If you tend to overfunction and overgive and want to please the other person, always in relationships, at the expense of your own needs and desires. It could be, maybe a detective persona if you don't trust men or you don't trust judgment in men. So you want to like snoop in your man's phone when he's in the other room. I hear about that all the time, right? Could be the survivor. This one is huge. That the survivor will put up with just about anything because they feel that they need this other person to survive. And so they're so scared of losing someone that they'll put up with horrible treatment or abuse or things that don't feel good to them. So, I'd love to hear from everyone watching too. Let us know in the comment section, what parts of yourself are coming up in this exercise. So important. And we always love hearing from you. Do you have any other examples? I know you're so big on personas, right? Any other examples of a part of yourself that could protect you?
Well, I think there's the critical parent, right? I think that often shows up as the inner critic, that we internalize the critical voice of our parents, or even just school teachers, aunts, uncles, grandparents, culture at large. And in some ways that's to protect us, right? So the inner critic is there to protect us from, saying something that's stupid, but at the same time, it's calling us stupid and being hard on ourselves. The other one that I see people have a lot of challenge with is either being the rejected one or being the rejector. I think they're pretty common personas that people have a real fear of rejection. And sometimes the work is to notice, oh, actually, I preemptively reject parts of myself and other people because I'm so afraid of being rejected. So often I push the guy away first before he might have a chance to push me away. So this work is rich. I mean, the more that I've gotten into personas work, and by persona, we mean a sort of a part or a mask that we unconsciously become kind of identified with, and that we don't know that we're doing it. It's almost infinite. Like the more that I've got into it, the more I'm like, yeah, these personas are kind of here all the time. There's just layers of it. So
that's great. Yeah, especially the critical parent. I mean, gosh, we can all relate to being hard on ourselves, beating ourselves up. It's like we take on that voice of the critical parent and we basically do the job for them, right? We're hard on ourselves. We blame ourselves. We beat ourselves up. So that's step one, asking the part of yourself that's protecting you. You could have many of them, but maybe just pick one for this exercise here. Asking them to step aside just for right now. So after you do that, step two is feeling the pure feeling that comes up when you do that.
Yep.
This step really only lasts, 60 to 90 seconds. Usually they only want about 90 seconds of your time. If you really get to the pure feeling that comes
Yes.
up, right? It could be panic at first, and then maybe a deep sense of sadness or grief. Really feel that and let it come up in you. And
Yep.
just want to like love and embrace and accept all the feelings that are coming up in you. That's step 2. Anything you want to add there? Or should we go on to step 3?
Well, so the thing that's interesting for me there is that I think there's often an assumption that it won't be 60 to 90 seconds. And that's what has us not wanting to feel things. Like, I think a lot of us have a fear of getting stuck, a fear of getting stuck in emotional experience, fear of getting stuck in pain. And, you know, the analogy that comes to mind for me is, you know, sometimes there's like something on your mind. You're like, oh, I must call that person, or I must, you know, put the recycling out. And the amount of time that it's taking up makes you imagine that somehow it's a really big job, when actually it's probably like a 1 to 2 minute job in the way that you're saying. But because it's always on your mind, you're kind of, it's stuck in your psychic RAM. And I think it's a similar thing sometimes with feelings, where you're fearing the feeling, you're fearing that you'll get lost in your grief or your sadness, when actually, if you know, what you're calling pure feeling, I would call authentic feeling. If you're feeling it authentically, then, you know, it will hang around for as long as it needs, but oftentimes it's a lot less than our mind makes of it.
It's so true. I'm like trying not to laugh too hard over here. It could be, this
Yeah.
plays out in all kinds of ways. Procrastination is like, I'm like the queen of procrastination, where I spent all day at the pool yesterday because I was supposed to send Jack an email and outline for this. And I was so nervous about it that I was procrastinating all day. I'm like, okay. And then at, you know, 10:30 at night, it took me less than 5 minutes and I just typed it out.
There you go. Yeah. Well, I love that you got to have all day at the pool. That does sound good.
Yeah, I know. Literally
that does sound better than emailing Jack, actually.
Yeah. I got nothing done all day because I was so avoiding this, because I'm just nervous about talking about it for the first time. But
yeah, well, fair enough. You know,
think about feelings. Really, when you let yourself feel them, you kind of get bored with them, and it's over. It's done. It's kind of like, I think you've described it before as like an ocean wave that kind of washes over you, and then
yeah, I think it's like that. You know, the other thing that's coming to mind is, you know, I was just saying to you off camera that I went to a therapeutic fasting clinic, so I was doing blood draws a lot, and you know, the experience of just having like a, you know, what I would call a plaster and you would call a Band-Aid, right? You can take that off really slowly and it's really kind of painful as each hair rips out of your skin, or you can rip it and it's like, boom, it's done. And it's just a moment of pain. And I think it's that sort of thing that we're talking about here, that, you know, you don't have to resist your feelings. What about if people say, well, yeah, but, you know, at the same time, like, I've got this very busy kind of corporate job. I can't just every moment of every day feel something, you know, I've kind of got to get stuff done. What do you say to them?
Yeah, great question. I do that all the time. Have you ever been on the verge of tears all day and you're just like, I don't have time to cry right now. I don't have time to feel this. And then like you finally just let yourself do it. It's over and it's done. So really they just want a minute or two of your time. That's it, you know?
Right.
Yeah. You maybe try this once and just see how not a big deal it is, right? I mean, it's a huge deal, but it's not going to take over your whole day. For me, what came up was nothing. It just kind of bubbled up to the surface. It wasn't like this huge, it didn't re-traumatize me. And I think when we go through these other 2 steps, you'll kind of see how it works.
Got it.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So just a quick recap. So step 1 is ask your protectors to step aside. Step 2 is feel the feeling or the pure feeling. What's step 3?
Yeah. So once you let yourself feel that feeling, step 3 is identifying where that part of yourself came from. Now, this was the hardest step for me. I just got stuck here for like a couple days. I just couldn't do it. And I even told my counselor I was working with, I'm like, I don't remember really anything in my childhood. I think I had depression as a child throughout my teenage years and even early 20s. So I think it affected my memory, even though, like I said, I don't think there was a big traumatic event. I was like, I can't do this. I don't know where they come from. So what he told me and what I found as well. So if you don't know exactly, if you can't pinpoint exactly where this part of yourself got created, that's perfectly fine. Just get the domain, just get the emotion. For example, let the sadness speak to you and just sit with it and be okay with it. Eventually what happened for me is memories will start to come up. Thoughts and feelings will start to come up because these parts of yourself often don't trust you if you've been gone for a while. Like for me, I've been gone for a while. I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to reconnect with this. That's going to be painful. I don't want to do it. I'd rather just stuff it down, just like you said. So identify where they came from. Again, we love hearing from you guys. Let us know. Eventually memories started to bubble up, and it was very gentle. It was very kind of, it wasn't traumatizing or overwhelming for me personally at all. So all of a sudden you might have a memory from when you were 11 years old or 6 years old or something like that. So that's step 3, identify where they came from.
Yep, I like it. And let's just say someone's doing that and they don't get anything come back. Is that a problem? Is that just go back to it at some future date and sense back into it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. For me, I was like, it took me maybe like a couple sleep cycles, just sit with the feelings that come up when you ask the protectors to step aside and just like gently allow it to come up. Don't try and force it, right?
Right.
You might remember something.
Yeah.
I remembered something that a family member told me that happened when I was like a baby. So it's not like I have that memory, but I go, oh, I bet that, that dynamic affected me all growing up and things like that. And so I started remembering things from school, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I said I don't remember my childhood, but really those parts of me are there. They come up when you're gentle with them and you just kind of sit with the domain of your feelings. Like I said, let the sadness speak to you, let the grief speak to you. And I can't promise you, because again, I'm not an expert in this, but for me, things started to come up. It might just be something that might feel unrelated, but really there's something there.
Yeah. Got it.
Yeah.
All right.
Are we ready for number 4?
Yeah, let's take us home. Yeah.
Okay, so number 4 involves going back and visiting this younger part of yourself from step 3 and basically talking with them about what it was like to be with them. So you could say something like, like re-educate me as to what it was like when I was 5 years old or 11 years old, right? Or saying something like, I'm an adult now and I can keep us both safe. I can protect us both and advocate for us both. In certain, instances, it can look like, taking them by the hand and acting as an advocate for them in that situation, speaking to the other person for them. If it involved another person who was mistreating them or, abusing them or traumatizing them in some way, actually being an advocate for that younger part of yourself. That was much easier for me than actually talking with them. Like for some reason, for some reason, it was hard for me to say like, oh, tell me what it was like as a 5-year-old in that situation. I had a harder time doing that. So I did the advocating for myself first. And then a day later, I could go back and actually like kind of revisit and say like, tell me what it was like. What did it feel like in that situation? What did it feel like being 8 years old, going through life in this way?
Yeah.
And,
do you feel like it's important to sort of identify a particular age?
I think just whatever comes up for you, whatever memory comes up for you, I think. I think it probably is helpful to, if you had a certain, what was it like for me as a 10-year-old, if that's what comes up, or maybe something general comes up, like it was hard for me as a teenager. Okay, so go back to your teenage self. That could be like, a 5 or 10-year span. What was it like for you? And actually listening to that part of yourself and embracing and accepting and loving every single thing they have to tell you, right? Rather than trying to be a mature adult and being more reasonable than that and like stuffing that part of yourself down or putting it in a corner. When we do that, these parts of ourselves, they start to not trust us, right? And so that's when they can act out and sabotage us, because like we talked about at the beginning of this video, they're just trying to keep us safe the best way they know how. They just don't always go about it in the most brilliant ways, right?
Yeah, I like that. It's kind of like that in conflict situations in relationship, just trying to honor the positive intent, right? Even if the vehicle of choice is crude or unhelpful, it's like honoring that the protector is there to do the best job it can in the way that it knows how, or it's only got one tool. It's kind of got a hammer, and that's what it's trying to use to protect you. And maybe now you can do something that's a little bit more nuanced.
Totally. Yeah. I have my own tools where you go back and, visit younger parts of yourself, and in one of the steps, and something that I've come up with is see if they have a gift for you, right? Meaning like your fear could be your intuition trying to, alert you to something, but it comes across as fear, or like a detective persona. I need to check out every single thing in this guy's phone when he's not looking, right? It can come out in the wrong ways. Or your anger could the energy. Once you really listen to that part of yourself and embrace and love and accept all the things it's wanting to tell you, you can use, like I said at the beginning, these parts of ourselves are naturally valuable to us. It was naturally valuable for you to be a people pleaser, for example. Back in the day, to feel like you fit in with your family, or to gain acceptance, or even like to survive, right? So the things that those parts of yourself have are naturally, they have resources and talents that they can lend to you. And what I've found personally is once you embrace and love and accept those parts, once they feel heard and understood, they'll start to work for you rather than against you.
Right. Yeah. Amen to that. So if people like this, or they're just vibing with you generally, they're picking up what you're putting down, how can people get more of you, Helena?
Yeah, you can always come, search for me on YouTube. You just search, you can include a link, I guess.
I'll link your channel. Yeah.
Yeah. After I do a video on some of these tools, I usually get people asking for like written material on it. So I'd be happy to like type out these steps so people can have it in written form and send it out as a newsletter. So if you're not signed up to my newsletters, Jack's going to include a link to that.
I'll put that as the first link, actually. Yeah.
So when you sign up for that, you'll instantly get my free gift on my website, helenahartcoaching.com. That's 3 keys to attract the man you want. That is a PDF report and an audio training. And we go pretty deep there too. I go into some of these kind of unconscious drives. Like, do you tend to put a man on a pedestal? Do you tend to want to over function and give and do everything for him? Which, if anyone's ever tried that, if you're trying to prove yourself to someone, you typically doesn't go the way you want it to. Like all these things we naturally, this like instinctive urge to do when we have feelings for someone, often just push them away and keep them at arm's length. So so if you sign up for my newsletters, you'll automatically get my free report, 3 keys to attract the man you want. You can read it. It's also an audio if you'd rather listen.
Awesome.
And I guess you'll include a link to that in the description, right?
Yeah, that'll be the first link just beneath this video. So click that, sign up for Helena's newsletter. And as always, questions and comments below this video, we will get to them. So we look forward to hearing how this has landed in you, and hopefully this can be a support for you getting closer to yourself, not leaving yourself out and not having to abandon parts of yourself. So
can I just add one more thing? If people are watching this like a year from now, and you don't for some reason get the written, this written out, and just email me. And you can contact me through my website as well, and I'll forward it to you. I'd be happy to do that for anyone if you want these steps written out.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, hopefully we can keep the link live as well. Helena, I want to thank you for coming on. It's been good to be with you. It's long overdue. So thanks for coming and sharing your wisdom with us. And anything you want to say to close out?
Oh, just thank you so much for having me. I was like thrilled when you said you wanted me on your channel, and this was awesome. I would love to hear how this goes for everyone. I'm so interested to hear the experiences of all the ladies watching, or anybody watching, really. Feel free to share this video with anyone who you think it might help. I know like I mentioned, it helps for anything, not just people pleasing and boundary setting, but it helps for depression, numbing out, overthinking. If you get stuck on something, you just want to analyze the situation, you're disconnecting from these parts of yourself that want to be heard. So hopefully this was helpful for everybody. And Jack, yes, I obviously love doing videos with you. Hopefully we can do this again soon.
Yeah. Awesome. Let's aim for that. All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks so much for being here, and we'll be with you again soon. Take care.